1, 2.
Zkouška? Nic? Jsem to dal úplně blbě. Tak ještě jedna zkouška. Dobře. No, můžu? I can say something, yeah.
So welcome, and let me introduce our first speaker for this afternoon, Mr. Pavel Imerda, who works in Red Hat as maintainer of NetworkManager package. He will be talking about some news from Linux networking and network configuration.
Okay, so I was already introduced. That's nice here. I will be talking about mostly our project, that means NetworkManager, but I'll be trying to speak a little bit more about the current infrastructure of Linux network configuration. Actually, I need to start with something really low level to work with. That means you always use kernel networking infrastructure for your computers with Linux. So that means even if you have things on top of it, you always need to configure the kernel itself. And this can be done with the IP command from the IP route package. And this way you can set up all sorts of things with the kernel. And even some things are maintained by the kernel itself. For example, if you activate the loopback interface, the IP addresses for both IPv6 and IPv4 protocols are handled just by the kernel, so you're not adding the addresses there. With this approach, you can easily put a lot of commands in a shell script and just run them as you would do with IP tables or something like that. And you are done with some static network configuration. This is suitable for testing. I'm doing this all the time on networking trainings so that we really know what's going on. And this is also usable for real use cases if you have a very static environment and you don't need any fancy stuff that is changing during the runtime. On top of that, you can put a rather tiny layer over this IP route projects or ifconfig or whatever you're using. And this way you can have networking scripts that you can activate for specific interfaces. You can act at runtime. For this you have various configuration formats, and you know, the important thing is always the use cases. So this is perfectly suitable for manual addressing and stuff. This is rather usable if you have just DHCP to connect to your network. But it's totally unusable with the IPv6 protocol. And it's unusable if you're using multiple connections using DHCP. So it's really, really limited. Some people say that this is enough for us, but no, we can't agree with that. It's not possible to go any forward with just networking scripts for us. Another thing that we would like to work with is VPNs and DNSSEC and stuff like that. So we actually need some central point. So that we talk about some specific softwares and some specific variants. You have ifconfig or CFG. These are used by many distributions, including Red Hat distributions, including SUSE distributions, and they differ slightly, so it may be sometimes different to work with them. You have if up down for Debian and Ubuntu. I think this is the most flexible one of those you can see here. Maybe Gentoo guys would disagree, I don't know, but you can still do a lot of stuff with the Debian variants, and something that works for routers and for building up more complicated networks is the UCI variant for OpenWRT. Who here knows OpenWRT and UCI configuration? It's pretty flexible, isn't it? So we are getting to the point, the conclusion of all these things over a long time is that networking scripts are not good enough for us, and we actually need a network configuration daemon. Maybe some of you disagree. Is there anyone who thinks we don't need a network configuration daemon? Michal Hrušecký, as usual. Okay. We are talking about many use cases. Yes, many of them can be done without it. But if you want something to get to the end users, to the customers, to virtualization users, it's pretty complicated to get over with just networking scripts or something. What's the purpose of the configuration daemon? First, it's configuration of the kernel, it's communication with all these other daemons, so it actually works as a central point, and it manages default route device selection and so on, and DNS server selection, you know. So everyone really wants to have his own network management daemon. So currently we have something like 6 of them. We have NetworkManager, which is our project. NetworkManager has something like 4 active people employed by Red Hat, and many contributors that send us patches time by time from Debian, from maybe SUSE, but that's not so often, from Gentoo. Yeah, we have some contributors, but it's rather a project of ours. There is Conman, which was promoted by Intel and was programmed for the Migo operating system. I was actually trying to run Conman. Yeah, it was possible. The daemon was working. The graphical user interface for GNOME was sort of, yeah, Ethernet worked. When I tried to do the wireless, yeah, it just crashed and nothing more. So I could not really use that. There's the WICD or VICD, or how you want to read it. That's just a simple daemon, so I don't want to be talking about it so long. Arch Linux has have their NetCFG, which is something like the other daemons, but they're trying to configure it in a more shell manner. So you're just preparing some shell variables and so on. But it looks like it might work too. NetFD is something I was really interested in. It's developed by OpenWRT folks, and they are trying to just extend the original configuration, not to change it from the scratch, and just provide a daemon so that all the configurations work correctly. And then we have Wicked, but I won't be talking about this one because we have another talk about this. So why are we actually using and promoting NetworkManager currently? It's that we have a long history of desktop usage, or maybe rather laptop usage on wireless and so on. So originally, yes, it was just a desktop thing or laptop thing to connect to wireless and stuff, and this is how it started. It actually works well with IPv6. Works well does not mean it follows all the standards. It does not mean it reconfigures whatever you want to, because we had no time for that. Actually, we were working on other stuff and we could not do this, but it's on the plan. You have to have the version 0.9.6 for a good IPv6 experience. And it's under active development, which is something I said already. It influences kernel development and development of other tools, because we are finding lots of problems, lots of bugs that you don't see when you're just using command line tools, because these bugs are usually related to timing. So we are event based. We receive some events and react on them. And sometimes this is a problem with the kernel or with some other tools. What we are trying to do is to also improve the IETF standards, because we found many things that we just have to choose whether to do it the standard way or make it actually work. So we just make it work. We just break the standards, but we are trying to get back our work to the standards too. And also that means all of these things mean that when you are not using Network Manager, you still can see some improvement in the kernel that is the output of our work. So what's the problem? Because we have problems, we admit it, we're not just hiding in some holes or something. So Network Manager was primarily designed for desktop. It just, the same ways just don't work for server, don't work for visualization, so this is something that must be covered. It lacks some important features. Currently it lacks bridging, which is for visualization, it's something you just can't avoid. We are working on it. We have versions that work with bridging. We are just experimenting, because I was trying my bridging branch and it worked on Ethernet, it worked with DHCP, it did not work with the wireless. We are working on this. And what we have as a long-term problem is that Network Manager sometimes just we announce some features and then we break them and it does not work. Or we announce some features, test them in some specific environment that works for us, then users come, try to use it, and it does not work. I'm talking about this all the time with my colleagues, because I think it's a bad way to do any development. And there's some output, and we are going to change this. And the way we are going to change this is a whole bunch of changes we are going to do. We are redesigning the whole platform interaction stuff. That means interaction with kernel and UDEF. We are actually rewriting this from scratch, because there's just no other way to do it right. We are trying to put together some hacks that we use to avoid or work around kernel bugs. We are trying to work around some library compatibility stuff, because we are still supporting libnl1 for communication with kernel, which is an old version. We now have libnl3, but they differ quite substantially. So yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hacks. It's a lot of ugly code, but we need to have it. We want to have it in one place, so we can cope with it. And the next thing is that we are actually putting the whole platform stuff in one place, which can be replaced with a fake platform code, and this will be used for regression testing. So we will have the whole Network Manager behavior tested. Yeah, that's something that's really new, because we only test the configuration code, and we do not test the actual behavior. So this is currently changing. It may help anyone who would like to port NetworkManager to other platforms, but this is not actually our goal. It's just a side effect of what we are doing. And this everything I'm now talking about is about maybe cleaner code, but definitely testing and preventing any regressions and preventing code that just works for some developers and does not work for users to go out to the actual users. This is just one thing that we are working about. There is another. A connection configuration is really user-oriented or desktop user-oriented, which does not work for us. We'll have to support some runtime configuration that is not saved to disk, or you can save it to disk later, or you can make configuration changes, but then see that they don't work. This is especially for visualization purposes when the administrator is connected from some far host and he's just changing the network configuration, he screws up, and he's disconnected. And with proper tools, with some checkpointing and so on, it's possible to detect this and roll back to the state that allowed him to connect back to his machine. So this is also part of our plans. And we are also going to offer API for all configuration changes, because we are currently providing like 5 plugins for different configuration formats. We are going to continue with that, but we are trying to make other projects like libvirt and similar to use the API so that it always succeeds regardless what configuration format we are using currently. And we are going to support IP configuration on devices that are not supported by NetworkManager. But don't be afraid, this will not be all automatic like it used to be. We will support things that you want to do explicitly and not just let NetworkManager take over everything. We'll be also supporting runtime connections that are not actually configured by NetworkManager. That means you have some network configuration from some initary tools or something that prepares it for you before the system starts, and NetworkManager will just take over the connectivity. So it will take over the current configuration and will not take it down as it is doing currently. So with NetworkManager and with other tools, we are going to fulfill some big picture of networking, but there's lots of other problems in Linux networking. We are trying to discuss and trying to talk to people that could solve them for us. Sometimes we are solving them ourselves because nobody just does anything for us. So it's quite. Who of you works in the open source development community sure knows what I'm talking about. So we have problems with DNSSEC because it works, but it does not work with VPNs. It has interoperability problems. We are trying to do IPv6 correctly with the kernel, but that's not possible. We have lots of workarounds to actually get the proper information. And what does not really relate to NetworkManager is the current glibc code that can break localhost. If you ever want to use your localhost when you're disconnected, it might not work even with IPv4, even with IPv6. So we are trying to discuss and trying to fix also things in other projects that are related to networking, and sometimes it's a problem. Multicast DNS, Avahi, that's another chapter. It unfortunately have to rely on glibc. That means it can't even work with linked local addresses currently. If you want to have more information on this, just poke me, I will send you the proper links and no problem. So what we currently don't support is the dynamic reconfiguration when you already have your configuration with IPv6, but it's changing on the network. This is something we are just postponing so that we can work on other stuff. So just to have a good picture of what we are trying to achieve, we are trying to extend the target use cases of NetworkManager from desktop and laptop, which we like to keep working well with it, to just simple servers, to more complicated virtualization hosts, and we are targeting also the initramfs images, which may be a surprise for some people. But we wanted to know from the initramfs people and in Fedora from the Dracud people what needs to be done to support this use case, and whether we need to make NetworkManager more modular, remove some stuff to make it smaller, remove some dependencies. And we realized that the other dependencies in initramfs are much bigger than what we have with NetworkManager. So currently we don't need to do anything. In the long term, yeah, it would be nice to have some improvement. Simple routing use cases are mostly just connection sharing, but we are still discussing some extension of this. But we have especially problems with IPv6 networking, where we are trying to avoid the ugly old network address translation from many addresses to one. So that there's not a simple solution. And especially we want to prepare NetworkManager to work in a controlled environment, in which, by which we mean that NetworkManager will not do anything automatically, will not work for the user, but will work for some other daemon that specify exactly what we need to do. So let's call it just a network API. And we are reaching the end of my talk. We ask the community to help us in ways they can and they want. We actually, with NetworkManager, I joined in May, or in the beginning of May, and I think before I came, we maybe lost a little bit because our Bugzilla was full of useless bug reports that were not handled by our developers. But now we are changing this. If you go to NetworkManager Bugzilla, if you look at the general component, which is all of this stuff related to connections, related to configuration, and everything that is not wireless or VPN or something, it has something like 90 or 100 bug reports, of which like 60 or 70 is just feature requests, and that means we are trying to handle the bug reports in some better manner. We are happy to hear about problems. We are happy to hear about new possible features. We kindly receive patches, and we like anyone who wants to work with us for some longer time and in some matter that will actually help the project. So if you have any questions on me now, it's possible to answer them, or we can discuss later.
Then let me thank the speaker for his interesting talk. And we will go on in a few minutes with another talk on a similar topic.